I believe that those security concerns have been very well articulated and are clearly understood by our government. We also recognize that there are a number of other considerations, both technical and geopolitical, which are also considered in the larger context. But let me be very clear. At all times, we will act in the interest of Canadians, and we will never put Canadian security or safety at risk.
The Chinese government is attacking the United Kingdom's decision this week to ban Huawei equipment from its 5G networks. China's foreign ministry calls the decision groundless and threatened, quote, any decisions and actions must come at a cost. The UK joins Australia and the United States in barring the telecom giant from its 5G networks. Yet here in Canada, Huawei's involvement in our 5G network remains under review. Public Safety Minister Bill Blair says a decision will be made on Canada's schedule and nobody else's. Alykhan Velshi is the Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Huawei Canada. He joins me from Toronto. Mr. Velshi, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It seems like the United Kingdom has dealt quite a blow to the 5G ambitions for your company. How big of a hit is this ban for Huawei?
I mean, I think that in the United Kingdom, it's bad news for British consumers and those who wanted to see 5G and technology deployed faster in the UK. So I think it's not good news there. So it's a setback in the UK for sure.
But the UK will eventually get 5G from somebody. What does this mean for Huawei to not be allowed to be part of that project?
I mean, Huawei operates in 180 countries around the world. The UK is one of them. It's obviously a very important market for the company globally, so it's a disappointment for the company in the UK, and I think it's a setback for the UK's tech ambitions within Europe. But ultimately, you know, we sell to companies and countries that want to buy our products, and if someone doesn't want to, that is what it is.
So in reaction to this, China's foreign ministry reacted to the decision, saying any decisions and actions must come at a cost, and Chinese state media is calling for China to retaliate against the United Kingdom. Doesn't this undermine the argument that Huawei is independent of the Chinese government and just another corporate actor?
I don't think so. Look, I don't know anything about what the government of China says or thinks or does or how it decides what it wants to do. I know that at Huawei, both in Canada as well as in the UK, we've always had a positive, productive relationships with the governments that regulate us, and we can only really speak for our actions, not the actions of a foreign government.
So do you disagree with those statements by the Chinese government?
I would disagree with any statements that make threats of any nature, and I think anyone at Huawei would.
So you've been given an answer, and a decision has been made in the United Kingdom. No decision yet on Huawei and 5G here in Canada. What is your understanding of why the Canadian government is taking so long to take this decision about your company?
Look, I think you would know as much as I do. The government put in place a process several years ago. All we can ask for as a company is that any decisions that are made by the government are made based on technology and not based on politics. It's certainly not based on saber rattling from the Trump administration. But in terms of what's happening within that process, we don't really know.
Is there a drop-dead date from Huawei's perspective on when you need to know whether or not you can do this before you can be an active participant?
No, our business in Canada is actually quite diversified. So, we sell network equipment to carriers, but we also sell smartphones and consumer devices. We spend $250 million a year in R&D. So we have a diversified business. And, when all the sort of the politicking is happening globally or in Ottawa, our focus is just on serving our customers. So regardless of what the government says or what the government does, our focus is just going to continue to remain operating in Canada, serving our customers.
I wonder, though, how much of a market there is for you in 5G. If you look at some of the big players, Bell and TELUS, they've already signed 5G agreements with your European rivals. A Roger executive last year called Huawei a threat to Canada and argued it should be banned from 5G. So even if Canada does say yes, doesn't it look like the industry has kind of already said no?
Look, I'm not going to, I can't, and I wouldn't discuss for commercially sensitive reasons our relations with any particular customer. I know that in the case of Rogers, that executive the next day withdrew those remarks, and Rogers has historically been, though not anymore, a customer of Huawei, so they didn't have a problem then using our equipment, and they've never complained about our equipment to us. But more generally, I think that we'll sell equipment to companies and countries that want to buy the equipment, and we have a diversified business. It's not just selling network equipment to carriers. It's also selling handsets and other devices. And so we're just going to continue serving those customers who want to transact with us.
But if you look at the political situation here in the country and the geopolitical situation, the diplomatic problems that exist right now between Canada and China, the hostage diplomacy, as people call it, involving the two Michaels, do you think Canadians would trust your company to play a part in what would be critical infrastructure?
Well, I think Canada's caught in a very difficult place, right? It's caught in the middle, essentially, of a trade war between President Trump and China. And I think Canada's been caught in the middle of it. I think all Canadians have been caught in the middle of it. And we're all sort of living with that. As a sort of a company that sells various technology products, all we can do is to continue serving our customers. I think we don't have the ability to affect the course of diplomacy, to affect the course of geopolitics. I don't think anyone in this country truly does on these issues. All we can do is focus on selling products to our customers.
Do you think, though, you will even get a decision, or do you think you have any hopes of ever being allowed to do major work in this country as long as the standoff over the Meng Wanzhou extradition continues and the two Michaels remain detained in China?
Well, we have a business in Canada. We have 1,200 employees. We spend $250 million on R&D, and our revenues, I think, last year were $750 million. And so our business exists already in this country across various products. In terms of the timing of a decision and whether there will be a decision, I've never speculated on that. I'm not going to start now. Ultimately, it's the government of Canada that has a process, and it's the government of Canada that will determine whether and when it makes a decision on what timeline. All we ask, in the interest of fairness, is that any decision they do make be made based on technology and not politics.
But how could they possibly separate the two? I mean, you've worked in senior jobs in the former Conservative government. When you have the incarceration of two Canadian citizens, which appears to be in direct retaliation over the extradition of one of your executives, how could they possibly separate those two decisions?
I mean, Huawei entered Canada in 2008 when the Conservatives were in office. It began selling 4G LTE equipment in 2012-2013, when the Conservatives were in office. And we've continued to operate since 2015 under a Liberal government. So we'll work with whichever government happens to be in office. Obviously, this is a regulated industry, but it's never been an industry where politics have been at the center of technology decisions. I don't think that's a good idea to introduce that now. But ultimately, I think that our hope is that decisions be made based on technology, not politics. And I think that as a Canadian, all we can hope for is that we stop being in the middle of this trade war between President Trump and China, a trade fight that is not our own.
But technology is politics in a digital age, in an information age, and we don't see Nokia or Ericsson we don't see Sweden and Finland arresting people as a consequence of trade disputes. I mean, surely you can see how that weighs into this.
Well, look, nor has Huawei, first of all, but secondly, and I think more importantly, every single one of our competitors has trade links to China. We all have global supply chains. Nokia and Ericsson do R&D in China, and they manufacture in China in both of those two companies' cases, joint partnership with the Communist Party of China. So there's no way that any country can wall itself off to global trade floors when it comes to network equipment. I don't think there's a way to really wall yourself off to China. So from a sort of a cybersecurity perspective or a cybersecurity resiliency perspective, our view has always been that cybersecurity programs should be industry-wide rather than company-specific. And if there are concerns about China, as I think as a Canadian, it's quite understandable that we would have those concerns, then we should focus on anyone with supply chains into China, and that would include us as well as far as I can tell, every single one of our competitors.
So if Canada does decide to ban Huawei, based on the reaction we've seen from China towards the United Kingdom, do you believe the Chinese government will retaliate against Canada?
I would certainly hope not. Look, our commitment as a company is to Canada. So regardless of what the government decides, we're going to be committed to our customers, and we're going to be committed to our employees. Now it's 1,200. It's growing, and it's been growing the last few years. And so regardless of what the government decides, we're going to continue focusing on our customers and focusing on the range of products that we sell in this country.
Okay. Alykhan Velshi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.